All right, we're making the Haley's minnow. We're gonna use a size 1 grip, 21571, and black nickel. I'm gonna put down thread wrap. I'm gonna use gray, 210 flat waxed. Put down the thread base. We're gonna do our tail. We're gonna use a barred craft fur. This is aqua fur. This material is a little tricky to work with. As it lays down, everything's nice and even. But if you notice, you stand it up and lay it on its side, the fibers start to blur. And you can see that simply by flipping it like that. Nice and clean lines, like this, just straight out, it's blurred. So to keep it all at the angle where the lines will be as dark as they can, I'll go in here and I'll just cut the square out, as so. Now you can see it keeps all the fibers nice and even. And I'll just tie it in directly like this. So if you were to flatten them all out and tie them in like this, it would not be even lines, but yet if you leave the tab part in, they will line up. So I'm just gonna hold it right behind the matting. I'm gonna lock it in. Just wanna put enough pressure to make sure it's not spinning around, trapping any fibers coming off the bottom of this mat that I don't need to. Cut that off, and we are going to clean it up. You might have a little bit of the matting coming in there. It's okay, just get it underneath the threads here. Do a little post. I like to do at least 3 wraps. This keeps the softer material away from the hook point, keeps it from fouling. It's a little sparse, but that's okay. I like the way that looks. We're going to use some black hole crystal flash. We carry the Space Coast flies. We're going to use as a lateral line. I'm going to match it with an accent color chartreuse crystal flash here. Just 1 strand of each. You can use more or less depending on how you like your flies or what your fish like, more importantly. Start by just working these together, get them kind of close. Put them around the thread. Make sure they're relatively even. Doesn't need to be perfect because we're going to trim them. Bring them onto the thread ball, and then work on getting them a little bit on each side. I'll hold them in place as I tie them down here. And then I'm going to come in here and just kind of trim the ends so we get all those extra flash off the back. All right. Now we're going to add an EP crafter brush. This is white with a chartreuse core. It's going to give us a nice added tail with an accent color. Cut the tab off, expose the core of the wire here, and tie it in. This one I like to do about 4 wraps. So we'll beef up the tail a little bit, but make sure you have enough of that color coming through as well. Just don't want any of the flash to get trapped. Other than that, pull back and wrap. All right, I'm gonna give it one more. Since I did a really sparse tail, this will help it here. Yeah, that's perfect. Separate these. I simply just pull them apart, get where I can get to the wire. I'll trap it with my thread, as so. Pulling against each other, make it really nice and tight. Helps the thread cut through and just press it down. Once it's secure, cut it flush, make sure there's no wire sticking out, and clean it up a little bit. This is a wire-free synthetic fox brush. This is a great material to use for heads. You can use it for collars, shrimp patterns. We use it in a couple of our patterns, and it's a little tricky to work with because you have this core material here, and you have to make sure that when you're trapping in your fibers, that is being rolled underneath instead of flipping over on you, and I'll show you here. And cut that tab end off. And make sure the core is down. I'm going to tie it in where it's flush with the tail fibers. Take my thread forward. Now, because this is sparse and it has that core in it, I'm going to use it kind of like a brush or like a dubbing loop. You have to be a little more fragile with it. You can stack it on itself to bulk it up, but I only do that in cases where some of the material might be thin, because it's not completely consistent throughout. That keeps it a little bit tricky to work with, but once you get used to working with it, it's really effective in the building really good movement, but also adds a lot of different color and variety to your patterns. This one, you kind of gotta get a little bulky. A little messy is okay. Just pull back and wrap. Pull back and wrap till you get to the front. Now you see here the core is exposed. I'm gonna pinch, pull, make sure it's really, really tight. Make sure no fibers are getting pulled back. And I'm gonna lock it in. Seems a little messy, but we're gonna clean it up. Pull it back. Start to lock it in. If you see any fibers that aren't where they want them to be, I'm just gonna pull them back, tie them in. I'm gonna trim it really flush here. See some of the core sticking out, you can pick it. If I can, here's scissors. And this little DP finger brush, and I'll give it like a little touch. Fluff them up. You want this fly kind of bulky in the head because this material is so sparse, it just won't hold shape if you have it too thin. So I'm just gonna build up a head here, get it really nice and clean. I'm gonna whip finish it and add eyes. I'm gonna burn the tip here to clean it up. This one I want to pull these back because they're a little sensitive. Just gonna get it close, but not too close, so they don't burn anything. All right, I'll pull it up and down a little bit just to kind of build shape before I put glue on it so it doesn't trap any of the fibers down the sides. It kind of pulls them this way. I'm be using these smaller 5mm pearl eyes. We're out of glue. More glue. I like to put my eyes right on the hook shank. That way they have a nice thing to stick to, not just sticking to the fibers, but actually sticking to the threads underneath. Put this little bad boy on there. I'm going to hold it in place for a few seconds until it has time to set. Okay. This side. Oh. It's a little much, but that's okay. Take some off of this. Just 1, 2. Okay. Just give it a couple seconds to set as well. Haley's Minnow. I like this color combo.